Brodes Media.
But yes, there's new news about Ben Simmons and his approach to Thursday in South Philadelphia and why he feels it's necessary, or why his camp feels that he should sit there at the edge of the bench and basically allow the Sixers fans to make it living hell for him. And once again, it comes down to money, and that's really where we're at. If you remember, there were 7 billion articles and 7 billion pieces that were released throughout the last 7, 8, 9 months of this drama. Oh, trust me, we all remember. And I specifically remember reading about people close to Ben Simmons saying, I don't give a fuck about the money. It's about the mental health and getting him right. And sometimes you have to sacrifice the financial part of it to make sure that you're embracing what's important here. And that's the mind and everything surrounding just where he's at inside of his head. Well, this doesn't add up at all. Now, basically, the message that we are getting from Rich Paul, from Clutch Sports, and from Ben Simmons is, who cares about your mental health, Ben? I don't care if you get hated for the next 2.5 hours. I don't care if the fan base obliterates you and literally makes your life horrible for 2.5 hours, because we can use this when it comes to trying to settle the financial pieces to all of the fines that the Sixers hit you with. So hold on a second. What's more important here, guys? Is it the fact that he needs to be mentally right now? They're just saying, who cares about it? It doesn't even matter a lick. And you know what? Yes, I'm still bothered by it. I'm still irritated by it. And for me, it's not as simple as he's no longer playing for this uniform, so why even allow yourself to get this pissed off about it? I'll tell you why. Because he did it to himself. He's the reason why we feel the way that we do. If he didn't do this, we don't react this way. It's just that simple. It's a cause and it's an effect. You sucked. You were bad. You were pathetic. And then we talked about how bad you were at the sport of basketball. You did not shoot. This isn't just someone failing. Tobias Harris right now, he's failing, right? He's taking shots. He's missing shots. He did a decent job defensively, and I'll touch more on that as we continue the show. That's more of a secondary topic. But there's a difference between missing and making shots and then not shooting a basketball for a bunch of fourth quarters in a row in the postseason as a primary point guard and as a max contract guy. You're not even shooting the basketball. You literally look at that play against Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks, and it makes you want to throw up and vomit. It's totally different than just, I didn't make my shots. I didn't execute. I didn't play as well as I could have. And then you work and you work and you work. Joel Embiid over the years, I turned the ball over too much. I didn't play my sharpest. He'll have 7 assists in a game and go, I didn't pass the ball as well as I could have. Because when you hold yourself accountable and then you make sure you do your best that it doesn't happen again, that's all it takes to satisfy sports fans. Yet this is the complete opposite, and they're pretending as if whatever type of harsh criticism he receives on Thursday night isn't anything to do with what Ben Simmons did. Let's look at what Ben Simmons did. Ben Simmons' actions is why we are here, and you just can't lose sight of that at all. And I heard that there's some rumors going around that Rich Paul was actually in the building against Chicago. So is it possible that he tried to get some sort of before and after? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Clutch Sports or Rich Paul actually plant people in the building and then tell them to do stupid things to make it look even worse than it really is. And unfortunately, and I really hope it doesn't happen, but I have to be honest here, there probably is going to be 1 or 2 idiots that cross the line that ruin it for everybody else. And we need to make sure that that doesn't happen. He's going to get definitely destroyed. He's going to get booed harshly, as he should. And I'm not supposed to tell everybody around town, you're not allowed to do that. He held this organization hostage for a long period of time. It didn't work because Joel Embiid rose to the occasion and Tyrese Maxey became a stud. And Doc Rivers put this team in a great position throughout the regular season before the trade to compete and put themselves in a position that Players now want to come play for you. James Harden is thrilled to get out of Brooklyn and compete with Joel because he knows that we have a serious chance to actually do lethal damage. That's a part of the Doc Rivers, Sam Cassell leadership from the coaching perspective. So it backfired on Ben Simmons. He thought that they would just plummet and lose every single game and it would just be a miserable experience, but that wasn't the case. But I'm supposed to tell 20,000 people that spent a lot of hard-earned money and who are going to the Wells Fargo Center that you're not allowed to express that type of emotion and express that feeling towards a person who's not only a horrendous basketball player, but a bad person too, who's not really in a mental health situation the way that he's claiming it is. And him sitting on the bench tells you that. Look, he didn't show up in Boston. You look at the Brooklyn Nets and the week that was, and you look at the fact that they hit the road and they're going to all these different cities. Ben Simmons is no-showing for all of these cities. He's not sitting on the bench when they're going to Boston. He's not sitting on the bench when he's going to these other towns. But just all of a sudden, I want to make sure my teammates know I'm here for them. I want them to know that I'm their guy and I'm willing to be in a Nets uniform. Get the hell out of here. You're a liar. You're a liar. And if I'm the negotiator and I'm looking at this, I'm going through the arbitration, that's definitely information that I'm going to use. But it's clear they have a goal, and they always had a goal. They had an agenda, and that was to get Ben Simmons paid. And they made fun of so many important issues that society has taken so many steps in the right direction to fix and to get better. And unfortunately, he's using this for his advantage. In what universe would a Rich Paul and Clutch Sports and an agent say, we don't care too much about how you're feeling upstairs in your head. Sit on that bench, and that will get us pay money. You'd be an awful, awful person to do that. I don't think Rich Paul would do that. So then by a process of elimination, it tells me that it's not as serious as they made it. Now, I worked with Gill for a bunch of years, who hosts the Sports Bash from 2 to 6 on 97.3 ESPN. And I saw him on Twitter talking about this situation. And his thought on it is, we all said for a while that Ben Simmons had a mental issue, and that's why he wasn't shooting the basketball. He finally admitted that, and now Sixers fans aren't taking it for face value, and they feel he's just lying. You can't have it both ways. And then I will fire back at that and say there's a difference between having a hiccup in a sport and mental illness. Lane Johnson taking time away from the game. Brandon Brooks and the anxiety and throwing up nonstop before games. There's mental illness, and then there's not being able to get over the hump in the game of basketball. It's not even close to the same thing. One guy is afraid of basketball. Then there's mental illness. And if you don't see that there are two totally different sides of things here, and it's two totally different extremes, then I'm sorry. But this bothers me. It eats me alive. And it really is disgusting that this is the road that was taken here by everybody involved. And what should the 76ers do? Do they play the tribute? And realistically, when you think about almost being Defensive Player of the Year, being Rookie of the Year, the All-Star games, going from 0 wins basically throughout the process to 50-something wins, this is a player drafted first overall. You say, hey, thanks, Seth. Thank Andre. Thanks, Ben. Just whatever. 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 7 seconds long. Should that be done? Yeah, probably. Even if this toxic world, probably. But knowing the circumstances, I wouldn't. I expect that building to go crazy. I expect that building to let it go and let it go as in let it pour all out and let him understand exactly how we feel based off of your actions. And that should be what happens. See, if you're worried about what the national media is going to think or the approach of what, people outside, Stephen A, First Take, this and that, because of the national media, they're going to find a way to spin it to make the 76ers fans look atrocious, no matter if they say anything like, you can't do that when somebody hits free throws, or whether they say, you suck, Ben, and they freak out. What we can't have happen is someone dump popcorn on another on a Ben Simmons or anybody a part of the Brooklyn. We can't have any of that garbage. And I just feel there's going to be one or two people that go overboard because there's always idiots in every fan base, in every city that seems to cross the line. And we need to do our best as a community because we know what the discussion points are going to be. So if we know that heading into the night, you got to hold the people around you accountable to make sure that they don't do anything dumb. Although I understand it's very difficult to say your actions can't happen while someone else decides I'm going to do it anyway. We just need to do our best out there. And what we should do is let it fly, let it soar, pound him with as many boos and toxic loud screams as humanly possible. And then that's it. And then that's it. And if you're telling me from an arbitration standpoint, when you look at all of the context and the entire story, everything that played out, going to the Camden facility but not really being there, going through the motions, getting kicked out of practice so he didn't have to speak to the media, half-assing everything, barely riding the bike, putting in zero effort, blaming everybody first, blaming Doc Rivers, blaming Joel, blaming Daryl Morey. The list goes on. I'm blaming everything. Then when getting fined, that's when the mental health issues popped up.
First of all, did anyone ever come out and actually say from Ben Simmons' camp, Rich Paul, anybody like that, he says he has a mental health issue? What exactly is his mental health issue?
Great question. So
no one ever said, right?
Nope. The Sixers asked for verification, as they should, just like any employer, no matter who you work for. If you're saying mental health, they're not going to say, okay, go home and just whenever you feel you're ready, just come back. It's no, you. And the thing is, they didn't want to use the Sixers doctors. Fine, go to your own, but you need some sort of documents. That's all, just documents.
My point is this. Bitch assness is not a fucking recognizable disease. Yeah, I mean, that's what Ben is. I mean, and here's the other question I have is this. I know it's an arbitration and everything, but is there any way the Sixers can countersue to get back pay from before? Because every off season, Ben is showing us these videos of him shooting in empty gyms, making 3-pointers and stuff like that. That's false advertisement. We should get money back from him.
Honestly,
because of all
obviously that's all funny. I don't know if they can get to that level of starting.
No, I know. I'm being funny, but at the same time, I wish we could, But here's my suggestion for the event. For the event, because it is an event with him coming back to the Wells Fargo Center and everything.
Sure.
I think the Sixers should do a petty video tribute. Just show pictures of him with jump passes in the lane, passing to no one. How about a still shot of him standing at the top of the 3-point line with no one guarding him within 15 feet, just not doing anything. And then the coup de grace is, the non-dunk over Trae Young.
Yeah.
Passing it to Thibault. I mean, like, seriously, I'm trying to think of a better chant, but, my best chant that I can come up with is True Philly, rumble me, dickhead, because he owes all of us a fucking boxing match.
Yeah.
Every one of us who have supported him through the years.
I agree.
And we did. We cheered him when he was not cheered him, but we pulled for him when he was missing those free throws, and not taking shots in the fourth quarter. But then for him to sit in the press conference afterwards and say, "Hey, it is what it is," and get mad at Doc because they asked the question, "Hey, Doc, can you win with Ben as your point guard?" is the question that they asked him. It was specific. They didn't say win with Ben Simmons. They said win with him as your point guard. And Doc said, "I don't know the answer to that," because maybe he wanted to move him to power forward.
I think that you brought up.
Anybody ever think of that?
Yeah, no, I think you brought up a lot of great stuff. Thank you so much for the call. I wrote down a few that I definitely want to touch on. In terms of the position, I know that that's been discussed. Maybe he could be off the ball, and with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, he could play that 4. The problem is when you look at the center, Andre Drummond, and I know they have LaMarcus Aldridge, but if he was to play the 4, a power forward role, it's very difficult to operate if you can't stretch the floor. This is now a game where your 4 position, look around the league. these good teams have fours that do damage. And you look at these even the fives nowadays, you got Brook Lopez hanging out in the corner, drilling all sorts of shots. So if he doesn't have the ball in his hands and his best attribute is a passer, it's a very difficult sell. But I think your point is valid, which is if you're Ben and you're analyzing the question, it wasn't can you win with Ben Simmons in general. It was just as a floor general, knowing the spacing of today's game. And this isn't how the message was portrayed or how the question was asked, I should say. But if you read between the lines and understand how the game has changed, you need guys who can score with the ball in their hands as they're dribbling up because it changes everything. Maxi's wide open. Niang is wide open. Hell, even Tobias Harris is wide open. They're just, well, Tobias specifically, not making their shots, but you could see how much more room there is to operate. So it's a great point to bring up, but I just don't know if Ben doesn't have the ball, what can he do? He could set screens and roll, but then at that point, he's a Matisse Thybulle. And I actually liked when Ben Simmons, Brett Brown put Ben Simmons in positions to be a screener and a roller, and as he was rolling to the basket, he would get a bounce pass or he'd get a pass and he could finish from there or find someone else. He could be a screener and a roller, but at that point, what is he? He's a Matisse Thybulle, and at that point, he's not what you ever anticipated him being, and you have to find ways to hide him, just like you're finding ways right now to hide Matisse Thybulle as much as possible, although James Harden feels obligated to get him incorporated more, which I love that approach, and I love that thought from such a veteran dude. I mean, everyone talked about him being selfish, and he's only worried about himself. That was all the talking points from all the talking heads, and it's just not true whatsoever. This guy's just as determined to win as anybody else that I've seen in this league. Now, in terms of what the Sixers should do on the Jumbotron, I would love for them to mock him and make fun of him and play all the bad clips and all that. But, I mean, if you're looking at it from a Sixers organization perspective, and they know the arbitration stuff's happening as well, I mean, are they going to do that? Are they going to do that? I don't know. If I'm making the decision, I'm probably not doing anything, just knowing the circumstances, because it is an event, as it was just alluded. At the same time, though, maybe it's just one of those, you know, the mug shots where it's just the face and it's Seth Curry. Maybe it's a picture of him taking a jump shot, Andre Drummond with him grabbing a rebound, and then it's Ben Simmons' face out there, maybe just dribbling the ball. And it's a combination of all three of those guys on the screen that says, thank you, Seth, Andre, and Ben Simmons, for your time spent with the 76ers. And then they know a big bunch of boos are going to happen, but it's the most simplistic way to go about things. It's the most standard way to attack it. And I feel that might be what they do, just to play like okay, we got to acknowledge it, knowing this guy was the first overall pick. Like, you can't escape the fact that these guys are returning to the court for the first time. So that's probably how I would do it.